Let's go to 311. 311. Earthly pleasures vainly call me, I would be like Jesus. Nothing worldly shall enthrall me, I would be like Jesus. Be like Jesus, this my song, in the home and in the throng. Be like Jesus all day long. I would be like Jesus. He has broken every fetter. I would be like Jesus, that my soul may serve him better. I would be like Jesus. Be like Jesus, this my song, in the home and in the throng. Be like Jesus all day long. I would be like Jesus. All the way from earth to glory, I would be like Jesus, telling o'er and o'er the story. I would be like Jesus. Be like Jesus, this my song, in the home and in the throng. Be like Jesus all day long. I would be like Jesus, that in heaven he may meet me. I would be like Jesus, that his words well done may greet me. I would be like Jesus. Be like Jesus, this my song, in the home and in the throng. Be like Jesus all day long. I would be like Jesus. Let's go over a couple of pages to 300. 300. Rock of Ages. Let's just do verses 1 and 3. $300. Rock of Ages, clap for me. Let me hide myself in thee. Let the water and the blood from thy living side which flowed be of sin the double cure. Cleanse me from its guilt and power. Verse 3. When my pilgrimage I close, victor o'er the last of foes, when I soar to worlds unknown, and behold thee on thy throne, Rock of Ages, clap for me. Let me hide myself in thee.
Good morning. My name's Jill Baker. I wasn't raised Adventist, but I had a wonderful childhood, even though we didn't know anything. My family was American Baptist, and I lived on a street where we had not much ethnic diversity. We were either Caucasian or Mexican, but we had tremendous religious diversity. The Catholics, all the Mexicans were Catholics, and they were Catholics on three sides of me, in front and on both sides. But next door to the Catholic family across the street was my Mormon friend, and next to her was the Brethren's group, and on the other side of the Catholics was the Dutch Reform. And we, as I say, we were Baptists, and one family didn't go to church at all. And it was interesting because the Melobickies across the street had 12 kids. Midgie was my age, and she was earmarked to become a nun, which she did. And I would help her with her catechism. I'd have to ask her the questions, and she'd have to answer them. And then one day I was helping her with her homework, and I noticed on their paper at the top, it said JMJ. So I asked her what that was about. She said, that means Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And I said, well, Mary next door, her father says that, but when he says it, it's swearing, loud and angry and stuff. So what? And I said, and how come the M for Mary is bigger and higher than Jesus and Joseph? How come she gets top billing? And where's God the Father? How come it's not a G? And she said, Jill, they give me these papers for free. I don't ask any questions. So let's just get the answers to this math problems done, So, okay. So my Mormon friend, I said, Judy, tell me about the Mormon church. She says, I don't know anything. We're Jack Mormons. We don't go to church. We don't pay tithe. We drink coffee. And I said, what's coffee got to do with it? Well, you can't drink coffee if you're Mormon. What's that about, Well, I don't know. Let's just, I said, okay, so if push came to shove and the Bible says one thing and the Book of Mormon says another, which one do you have to go by? I don't know. But I suppose the Book of Mormon, because it was written later with the help of an angel. Oh, okay. But in truth, I was just as ignorant as they were, because I never knew that Jesus was in heaven before he came to earth. And I couldn't figure out why there was a second coming if we all went to heaven when we died or not. And I just always felt odd. And in high school, it got worse. I got more confused, and I was often in the pastor's study after church in tears. And I just thought, I'm just not getting the whole religion thing, I don't fit in, And it was attributed to teenage angst. That was my problem, they said. They thought, all teenagers are this way, and nobody else seemed upset or concerned. And then in 1964, I think it was, I was back in Michigan, and my cousin says, oh, you need to go visit a few of your grandma's sisters. And I said, well, I know Aunt Mary, right next farm. Sweetest, nicest little thing. Just fragile and sweet and everything. Well, but you haven't met all of them, so let's go meet Aunt Ethel. Now, it's spelled Ethel, but she insists on Ethel because Ethel sounds like a kind of gasoline. Oh, okay. Ethel, I'll call her Ethel. So we went, and as we're driving, my cousin said, by the way, they're kind of peculiar. They go to church on Saturday, and they won't pick up their mail on Saturday. They won't walk down to the end of the driveway and get their mail. And they have sugar maple trees that they tap, but they won't empty the things on Saturday, and so it runs on the ground and gets ants and stuff. But other than that, okay. Well, they were kind of unpleasant people. And the first thing when I walked through the door of their house, I see a big dead rat laying on the stove. My cousin's right behind me, and he picks the thing up by the tail and walks it outdoors. And I thought, well, maybe that's part of this deal that you don't do anything, even remove a dead rat. Now, I didn't know. I thought, oh, okay, this is different. But the next day, he says, we're going to go meet her daughter, and her name's Maraway. I said, Maraway? I remember my dad saying that of all the relatives back there, the only one he ever wanted to see again was Maraway, because she was the one that was kind to him. My dad was raised, his mother died when they were homesteading in Montana. His mother died when he was a year and a half old, and she died in childbirth. And so the family hated my grandpa for dragging her out amongst the Indians. They lived right next to the Crow Reservation, and killing her off. Well, she died in a hospital in Billings, giving childbirth. So I knew that wasn't true, that they were out there in the snow when she died, you know. But I didn't say anything. But he was told, it was made clear to him that he and his brother were being raised out of a sense of duty. That's all, you know. And so they had no love, really. And but Maraway was very kind to him and sweet to him and everything. So I went to Maraway's house, and here was this lovely family with these two teenage daughters. Well, they were younger than me. They must have been about 13. And they looked like Snow White or something. Long hair, no makeup, and just so sweet to each other. And I thought, you know, in my neighborhood, sisters and brothers were natural enemies, you know. You were always fighting and everything. And it seemed strange that they were so sweet to each other, you know. And after I married Bruce, it dawned on me later that these were Adventists, you know. But growing up, I'd never heard the word Adventist. In fact, I met a man who was 100 years old in Ohio. And he said, the only thing I know about Adventists is they come to my place once a year for something called ingathering and ask for money. That's all I know about them. And we never even had anybody come for ingathering. So, and I think if there were Adventists in our school, we would have heard about it, but they must have had their own school, you know. So that's probably why I never heard of Adventists. I went through kindergarten all the way through high school with the same kids and knew their religions and everything, and wound up in an Episcopal church one day with one of my classmates. I went over to her house, stayed overnight with her, and we went to church in the morning, and they had communion. They were all lined up in the front. The guy was going along. And so I marched up to the front to take communion, because in the Baptist church, you have open communion. Well, afterwards, my friend told me, you shouldn't have done that. You're not a church member. You are not supposed to go up to the front. Oh, I didn't know that, you know. Then one day, our scout leader took us to a Jewish temple, synagogue. She knew the rabbi. And he took us in, and he opened the big thing with the scrolls and showed it to us and everything. Oh, so precious to him. But the thing that really stuck out in my mind was that he was smoking in the synagogue. In the back, when we came in, he'd been smoking, and they had a standing thing to put your cigarettes out in. And I thought, you know, at the Baptist church, you don't even smoke on the steps outside. If you're going to smoke, you go to your car down the street and sit there and smoke. But, so I had a lot of diversity growing up. In fact, I heard a religious program one day, and it was Elder Fagel, and it was the episode where he was talking to a man who was on death row, if any of you remember that. And years later, I got to meet him at a camp meeting in Ohio. I saw him coming from the parking lot. It was a big Chautauqua tent, and I saw him coming and dashed up to him and grabbed him, Oh, I just love that. So now I understood about the state of the dead. And in fact, later on, a minister told me, his name was Claire Bishop. Did anybody know Claire Bishop? No. Anyway, he told me, if whenever you're witnessing to somebody, never start out with the Sabbath. Leave that alone. It's the state of the dead. You hit them with that first. And because Bruce told me he went to church on Saturday, made no impression, but the state of the dead did. And Pastor Bishop said, once people realize they've been lied to about the state of the dead, then they begin to wonder what else they've been lied to about and might start studying, But the state of the dead is what everybody is interested in, including my dad. My dad's best friend died. All of his life had been this best friend. He and my brother cornered me they were having a little reception of food and stuff, and said, Jill, where do you think Jack is right now? So I got to tell him what I believed, but that they were really concerned about what happened because it was his best friend. But I had gone through a rocky period in my life from 65 to 70 where I turned against the Lord. A tragic thing happened and I blamed the Lord, and he told me 3 times, this little voice right behind me told me that it was his will. And I said, well, if that's the way it is, then I'm going to go my way and you can go yours. And so for 5 years I did. I got into physically reckless behavior, driving fast. And if there'd been bungee jumping at that time, I wouldn't have done that. I was afraid of heights, but everything else, motorcycles, dune buggies, hiking at night in Yosemite with just a flashlight, and stupid things. But I said, okay, I'm swearing off men. I want nothing to do with them. I had married a fellow and it lasted 9 months. He was an alcoholic. And so I said, okay, I'm done with men. And I was working in a restaurant one night when Bruce came in, sat at a table. It wasn't mine. And the girl came over and said, Jill, that guy wants you to wait on him. I says, okay, I'll wait on this putz and you can have the next table that comes and maybe be more people and you can go outside and have a smoke. So the first thing he said to me when I went up to take his order was, are you a Christian? Well, the week before, I told the girls, I'm never dating again unless the man's a Christian and he has to give me references. Well, he came in 3 days in a row. The next thing is when I took his food, he said, do you believe in miracles? I said, yes, of course I do. I was thinking, yeah, there's a time this guy shot at me and the bullets went through my hair. Yeah, that was a miracle that I didn't get killed. Yeah. But he wanted me to go out with him and he gave me his card and put it in, I had a little pocket on this apron thing we wore. Next day, the boss said, Jill, I want you to go to San Diego and bail out the cook. Here's this bag of change to take to the bail bondsman, and you got to sit there while they count it and blah, blah, blah. It was in San Diego. And I was so tired. I said, I've got to have lunch or sit down or something. I can't face driving back to Laguna. I was right across the street from Bruce's office. So I went in and, everybody else, I'm in a waitress uniform and people are looking at me. Oh, yes, I'm a friend of Dr. Baker's. That's his office. Go sit in there. And I had told the girls I would not date a doctor. The reason being, I knew that they went to cocktail parties and such like that and hung around with people, you know, that are big rings and stuff. So I'm sitting, he says, sit here while I see this last patient. And while you're waiting, I want you to read my references. Well, let's see. Everything was in the Navy, he was divorced, had 3 kids, he went to Loma Linda, you know. I'm thinking, this is bizarre. So I said, okay, I'm going to go out with him once. So we get in the car and we're driving, and he says, oh, I hope you don't mind. We got to stop by this house. They're having a party for me. And I thought, a party? I'm not dressed for, you know, I'm thinking cocktail party. I go in, and these are the nicest people in the world that just had slacks and sports shirts. And the guy says, here, you need a glass of punch. And I thought, what's that, you know? He said, oh, it's just for, well, they were Adventists. And so we wound up getting married, and then I figured out that my relatives were Adventists, but, and I'm the only one in my family. My brother's visiting now. He and his wife are Buddhist, Hindu, anything goes kind of, you know. So it's been interesting so I would like to have you pray for me to be a good witness to my brother and his wife, because she not only is not a Christian, but she's very much anti-Christian, you know, and willing to say so, but thinks I'm kind of nice, but kind of stupid, you know. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm glad I'm here. Thanks.